Hey everyone, let's get ready for a deep dive into something really cool.
Cool.
Yeah, we're talking permaculture today,
Oh, awesome.
and we're going to try to really figure out how to apply this fascinating approach to creating sustainable living.
It's all about working with nature, not against it.
I love that idea.
And we've got this incredible book as our guide. It's packed with tips and ideas.
It's like,
A crash course.
yeah, crash course in permaculture.
I like that.
All right, let's dive in.
Okay, so one of the things that's really fascinating about permaculture is that it's not just about gardening.
All right.
It's more like this whole systems design approach, taking inspiration from nature's patterns to create these amazing homes, gardens, and even communities that are both like productive and regenerative at the same time.
So it's like it's way more than just being, quote, green.
It is.
It's about designing systems that actually like restore and replenish the environment.
Exactly. You hit the nail on the head.
Yeah.
And at the heart of it all are these three core ethics that drive permaculture.
Okay, I'm listening.
Care for the earth, care for people, and then care for the future. And these ethics are really intertwined.
Oh, I see. So you can't really have one without the others?
Yeah, you can't just care for people if you're trashing the planet, right?
Right.
Caring for the earth means we've got to protect the soil, the
Yep.
water, the air. These are like the foundations of life.
Okay, yep.
And caring for people means making sure that everybody has access to those resources that we need to thrive,
To thrive, yeah.
like food, water, shelter, those basic things.
Okay.
And then care for the future is like thinking long term, making those choices that benefit not just us, but, the generations to come.
Right, yeah, playing the long game. I like that.
Okay, cool. So let's say you're dreaming of building yourself this amazing, sustainable home. The book actually kicks things off with choosing the right location.
I was going to say, I bet there's more to it than just finding a pretty view.
Oh, way more. Placement is key.
Yeah.
And we need to think about things like wind direction, harnessing those breezes for natural ventilation, and of course, sun exposure is
Yeah.
huge.
Oh, yeah, for
Not just for warmth, but like for passive heating and cooling.
Yeah.
You also want to think about access to water, maybe even potential hazards like flooding or erosion.
Right, yeah.
It's about working with the land and not against it.
So it's like you're choosing a spot that has some advantages already. You're not trying to force something that doesn't fit.
Exactly. And then, speaking of fitting, what about the house itself? What kind of building materials do we use?
Yeah, what does the book say?
Well, get this. The book talks about clay houses.
Clay houses. Wait, so not like mud huts, but actually like
No, not mud huts. Beautifully designed homes made from clay that can last for centuries.
centuries. Really? I always thought clay was kind of, fragile.
Oh, it might sound surprising, but clay is incredibly durable when you use the right techniques. And, it's often readily available. It's super affordable, too. The book also talks about using bamboo,
Oh, yeah, bamboo.
which grows so fast, and when it's harvested and treated properly, it can be amazingly strong for building.
I love that idea, using materials that are already there in nature.
Yeah.
But okay, what about heating and cooling? Any clever tricks for staying comfortable without like constantly running the AC or the furnace?
Oh, tons.
Really?
The book has tons of ideas for natural ventilation and insulation.
Okay.
Harnessing natural systems.
Yeah.
For example, strategically placed windows and vents can create airflow and keep your home cool in the summer. And for insulation, you can use things like straw bales.
Straw bale wall.
Yeah, cozying up in a house with straw bale walls.
That actually sounds kind of charming.
Right.
Okay, so we've got our comfy house, a great location. Now, what about like dealing with waste? Is that something you just have to truck out, or is there a different approach with permaculture?
This is where things get really interesting. Permaculture sees waste as a resource. Remember those three ethics? Well, caring for the earth also means finding ways to close the loop on our waste systems.
Okay, so what kind of solutions are we talking about here?
Think compost toilets and showers that turn what we usually just flush away into these valuable resources.
Compost toilets.
Yes,
Mm.
I know you might be thinking, ee, but they're designed to be, hygienic and odor-free. And the compost they produce can be used to fertilize trees and gardens.
Wow, that's like a total mind shift from waste to valuable resource.
Right.
Okay, we've built our eco-friendly house. What about the land surrounding it? How does permaculture approach that?
That's where zone planning comes in. Imagine creating these concentric circles around your home. Each zone represents a different level of intensity and management.
Okay, so it's like organizing things based on how much attention they need. Walk me through these zones.
Okay, zone 1 is your high-intensity zone, the area closest to your house where you're spending the most time and effort. This is where you'd put things like your kitchen garden, herbs you'd use daily, maybe a small chicken coop, that sort of thing.
Got it. So high maintenance stuff that needs frequent care. What about zone 2?
So zone 2 is a little bit further out. Maybe you have some fruit trees there, a larger chicken coop or even a small pond for raising fish. It still needs attention, but not as much as zone 1.
Okay, makes sense. So I'm guessing each zone gets progressively less intensive?
Exactly.
Okay.
Zone 3 might be for, like, field crops that need less frequent care. Zone 4 could be managed forest land, for gathering firewood or mushrooms. And finally, you have zone 5, essentially untouched wilderness.
Wow, so it's like a whole ecosystem radiating out from your home. That's incredible. But okay, full disclosure, I'm like a total newbie when it comes to gardening. Does this book have any tips for somebody like me?
Oh, it's full of practical gardening advice.
Okay, good to know.
And it all starts with this one key thing: healthy soil.
Healthy soil? Yeah, I've heard that's like the key to everything.
Yeah.
But I'm not really sure what that even means. What makes soil, healthy?
Well, think of it as this living ecosystem. It's teeming with these beneficial bacteria, fungi, and, wait for it, worms.
Worms.
Worms. They're the unsung heroes of the garden.
Okay, I gotta admit, I'm not like the biggest fan of worms. What do they actually do?
They aerate the soil, they break down organic matter, and they're castings. Pure gold for your plants. The book explains how to create the perfect environment for these little helpers. It also covers simple solutions for common soil problems, like if your soil's too acidic or too alkaline, there are natural ways to balance the pH.
Okay.
And if you're dealing with, heavy clay soil,
Oh, tell me about it.
it's got tips for amending it to make it less dense.
So no more fighting with my clay soil. That's a relief. But is it all just basic stuff, or does the book go into some more advanced gardening techniques?
Oh, it goes way beyond the basics.
Okay, good.
We're talking seed saving, building your own seedling nurseries, natural pest control, even a surprising tip about using black palm fruit as a rodent repellent.
Black palm fruit. That's wild. Okay, I'm starting to see how permaculture is all about finding these creative, natural solutions.
It is.
What else stood out to you in the gardening section?
Well, one thing that really caught my attention was the idea of planting in curves rather than straight rows.
Really? Why would you do that?
Well, it actually mimics natural patterns. Nature rarely operates in straight lines, and when you plant in curves, you create more edge space, which can lead to better yields.
That's fascinating.
Plus, it's just more visually appealing. It helps with water retention, too.
Huh. Who knew? I'm learning so much already. But, a garden isn't just about plants. What about incorporating animals into the system? I'm guessing that's covered in the book, too.
Absolutely.
Okay.
There's a whole section on integrating animals.
Animals, okay.
Chickens, ducks, pigs, goats, cows, even buffalo.
Wait, buffalo? Like the big shaggy ones?
The big shaggy ones.
What would you do with a buffalo in your backyard?
Well, traditionally they were used for plowing.
Oh, okay.
But even on a smaller scale, animals can play a really crucial role in a permaculture system.
Okay. But don't you need a lot of space for animals? And what about, the mess?
Well, the book focuses on practical advice for housing, feeding, and healthcare, emphasizing low-cost and sustainable methods. It's not about factory farming. It's about creating this symbiotic relationship where animals contribute to the overall health and productivity of the land.
I see. So how would animals, actually benefit the system?
Well, take ducks, for example. They can help with pest control in rice paddies.
Okay.
And they fertilize them at the same time.
Really?
Talk about multitasking.
Mm.
And chickens can help with weeding and pest control in your garden. Plus, they provide eggs and fertilizer.
That's amazing. So it's like each element supports the others, creating the self-sustaining cycle. I'm already feeling inspired to transform my backyard into a mini permaculture paradise.
I love that. That's the spirit. And guess what? We haven't even touched on trees, bamboo, and appropriate technology yet.
Wait, appropriate technology? I have no idea what that means. Tell me more.
So appropriate technology is all about using simple, often low-cost solutions that are well-suited to your needs and your environment.
Okay, I like that.
It's about being resourceful,
Yeah, so instead of relying on complicated, expensive tech, it's about finding clever, simpler ways to do things.
Exactly.
Give me an example.
Okay, so imagine this. You've built this beautiful clay oven in your backyard using materials you sourced locally.
Oh, nice.
And it uses minimal fuel, just some twigs and branches, and you can bake bread, roast veggies, cook pizzas.
Oh, that sounds amazing. It's like going back to basics, but in a really, smart way.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The book also talks about solar dryers for preserving food.
Oh, yeah.
You know how much energy those big electric dehydrators use?
A lot.
A lot. A solar dryer uses the power of the sun free and abundant to dry fruit, vegetables, herbs, even meat. And it can seriously reduce food waste.
That's so smart. It's like permaculture is all about finding these like elegant, nature-based solutions for things.
It really is.
Okay, what else falls under appropriate technology?
Well, the book has a whole section on making charcoal briquettes
Charcoal briquettes. Oh,
from readily available materials like agricultural waste.
okay.
Charcoal is a fantastic fuel source, and this way you're creating it sustainably
Yeah.
instead of contributing to deforestation.
That's amazing. So we're cooking with charcoal we made ourselves, drying food with the power of the sun. Is there anything else?
Oh, there's more. Remember how we were talking about hot climates earlier?
Yeah.
The book describes this thing called a Coolguardy safe.
A what?
A Coolguardy safe. It's basically a low-tech refrigerator that uses evaporation to keep things cool.
Really?
It's basically a wooden box with shelves covered in wet burlap, and as the water evaporates, it draws the heat away, keeping the inside surprisingly cool.
A refrigerator that doesn't need electricity.
Mm.
That's brilliant. Okay, I'm so impressed with all of these practical, low-cost solutions. But before we get too carried away with all this building and gadgets, let's go back to the land for a bit. We were talking about animals earlier, but what about trees? Do they have a role to play in permaculture?
Oh, trees are essential. The book has a whole chapter on the power of trees and bamboo, emphasizing reforestation,
Okay.
not just for the environment in general, but for sustainable food production too.
Okay, I can see how trees would be good for the environment, like providing shade, preventing erosion, things like that. But how do they contribute to food production?
Well, they can create these microclimates that benefit other plants.
Okay.
They provide shade for delicate crops, windbreaks for those more vulnerable areas, and their fallen leaves create a natural mulch that enriches the soil.
So it's about creating these layered systems where different elements work together.
Yeah, like a team.
Yeah. Is there a specific, technique the book mentions for incorporating trees into a permaculture design?
Oh, definitely. It mentions this fascinating technique called swales.
Swales.
Yeah, so picture this. You're digging trenches along the contour of a slope. These are your swales, and they're designed to catch and store rainwater, slowing down runoff and recharging groundwater.
So instead of that water just rushing downhill and carrying away topsoil, it's captured and put to work.
Exactly. And as these swales fill with water, they create these pockets of fertile ground where you can plant trees, other crops. It's like you're building mini oases on your land.
Okay, I gotta admit, I'm totally geeking out over swales right now. But, remember how we were talking about bamboo houses earlier?
Oh, yeah.
Well, bamboo's not just for building. It can be used for, everything. Trellises, fences, furniture, even water pipes.
It's a wonder plant.
It really is. But I'm curious, what about the, social and economic aspects of permaculture? Is it all just about individual self-sufficiency, or is there, a community element to it?
That's a great question. The book definitely emphasizes self-reliance, but it also encourages collaboration and community involvement, especially through cooperatives.
Cooperatives. I'm not super familiar with that.
So a cooperative is basically a group of people who come together to achieve a common goal. They pool their resources, share knowledge, and work together for everyone's benefit. In the context of permaculture, you could have a group of farmers who form a co-op to share equipment, market their products together, maybe even establish a community garden.
Oh, that's a great idea. It's like taking the principles of permaculture and applying them to, a whole community.
Exactly.
But wouldn't that be difficult to manage? How do you make sure that everybody's contributing equally and that things run smoothly?
Well, the book actually uses this really cool metaphor of a tree to describe a successful cooperative.
Okay, I like metaphors.
Me too. So the roots represent the resources the cooperative needs, like land, tools, funding. Then the trunk represents that management structure, ensuring everything's organized, running smoothly. The branches, those are the various projects the cooperative takes on, like farming, food processing, maybe even education. And then the fruit, well, those are the products or services the cooperative offers. And finally, the seeds represent new cooperatives branching out, spreading these permaculture ideas.
That's such a powerful visual. I love that. But even with a strong cooperative, how do individuals make a living from permaculture? Is it realistic to think that you could actually earn an income from it?
Absolutely. The book talks about value adding, which is all about turning raw ingredients into higher value products.
Okay, so like what? Give me an example.
Say you have a ton of tomatoes from your garden.
Okay, yeah.
Well, instead of just selling them as is, you could turn them into these delicious sauces, salsas, or even dried tomato snacks.
Oh, that's a great idea.
It's about getting creative.
It makes a lot of sense if you're trying to, like, support yourself, right?
Exactly. And it's a win-win because you're reducing food waste and creating new income opportunities at the same time.
Mm.
It's a perfect example of how permaculture encourages resourceful thinking, that entrepreneurial spirit.
I'm really starting to see the potential of permaculture, not just for individuals, but for whole communities. It's so cool to think that we can design these systems that are not only sustainable, but also economically viable.
Yeah.
But I have to be honest, sometimes all this talk about self-sufficiency and going back to the land can feel kind of overwhelming.
Yeah.
Like, where do you even start?
I get that. And that's the beauty of permaculture.
Mm-hmm.
It's about starting small and building from there.
Mm-hmm.
You don't need acres of land or a fancy degree to get started.
So, baby steps.
Baby steps.
Okay, good, because I need baby steps.
Yeah.
What would be like a good first step for somebody who's intrigued by all of this but doesn't know where to begin?
One of the most fundamental principles of permaculture is observation.
Observation, okay.
Before you start digging or planting, just take some time to observe your space.
That makes sense.
What are the natural features? Where does the sun shine? Where does the water flow?
Okay.
What kind of plants and animals are already there?
Right.
Once you understand your environment better, you can start making these really informed decisions about what will thrive there.
Yeah, it's like taking the time to really connect with your space before you start trying to change it.
I like that. What else would you recommend?
Mm.
Another great starting point is to build healthy soil. We've talked about how important that is for gardening, but it's also a foundational principle of permaculture.
Right.
Start composting, add organic matter, maybe even get a few worms to help you out.
Okay, worms I can handle. Composting I'm still working on, but I'm definitely feeling inspired to start incorporating some of these permaculture ideas. Is there anything else you'd like to add?
Just remember that permaculture is a journey, not a destination.
That's good.
It's about continuous learning, experimentation, adapting to your specific needs and environment. Don't be afraid to try new things, make mistakes, and learn.
That's so important. Perfectionism can be so paralyzing, you know?
It can be.
But if you approach it with this like sense of curiosity and a willingness to experiment, it becomes a lot more approachable.
Exactly.
It really is. It's all about the journey, not like trying to get everything perfect right away.
Exactly. It's about constantly learning and, experimenting and adapting as you go.
I like that.
Keeps things fun. Keeps you on your toes.
Yeah, it's like a constant adventure.
Yeah.
This whole deep dive has been so eye-opening for me. I feel like I have a whole new perspective on sustainability,
I'm so glad.
like what it really means to live in harmony with nature.
That's what it's all about.
What about you? What was like the most surprising takeaway for you from this book?
Well, one thing that really stood out to me was how much the book emphasized connecting with our food.
Connecting with our food.
Yeah. It's not just about, growing it ourselves, but really understanding where it comes from, how it's produced, what kind of impact it has on, like, the environment,
Yeah.
our communities.
Yeah.
It's so easy to just grab something off the shelf at the grocery store without even thinking about it.
Oh, yeah. I'm
Yeah.
totally guilty of that.
But permaculture really encourages you to think about the bigger picture.
It does. It's not just about those individual choices, but about creating systems that are more just and equitable for everyone involved.
Yeah, and the book actually goes into that, the social and economic aspects of sustainability.
Mm.
Acknowledging that true sustainability means addressing things like poverty, inequality, access to resources. It encourages those community-based solutions.
I love that.
Cooperative economics,
Yeah.
giving people the power to create livelihoods that are both, ecologically sound, but also economically viable.
That's what I find so inspiring about permaculture. It's not just about like living off the grid.
Right.
It's about, creating a more just and sustainable world for everyone.
It really is about shifting our mindset,
Yeah.
from scarcity and competition to one of abundance and cooperation.
I love that. So for our listeners who are out there feeling inspired and want to dive deeper into the world of permaculture, where should they start?
Well, this book is an amazing resource,
Yeah.
but there are tons of other resources out there, websites, online courses. There are even permaculture communities, local workshops where you can learn some hands-on skills.
That's awesome. And don't get overwhelmed. Start small, experiment, observe, and enjoy the process.
Exactly. Like even if you just start composting your kitchen scraps or planting some herbs, and a little pot on your windowsill,
Mm,
they're taking a step in the right direction.
yeah, those small actions really do add up over time.
They do. You create this ripple effect.
Exactly. And who knows, maybe someday you'll be transforming, a bare piece of land into this thriving permaculture paradise.
Wouldn't it be awesome?
Thanks for joining us for this depth dive. I hope you're feeling as inspired as I am to start creating a more sustainable and fulfilling way of life. And until next time, keep exploring and keep learning.